Einen schönen guten Nachmittag, meine Damen und Herren. Ich begrüße Sie herzlich zum Oil & Feed Millers Best Digital Day. Herzlich willkommen an alle, die jetzt neu hinzugekommen sind und natürlich auch schön, dass Sie immer noch dabei sind. Ich möchte noch mal kurz unseren Veranstaltern hier danken, der DVT, OVID, AMI und USSEC. Und auf den nächsten Vortrag, meine Damen und Herren, freue ich mich ganz besonders. Wir haben nicht nur fachlich einen wirklich tollen Menschen hier heute eingeladen, sondern auch menschlich. Ich begrüße aber noch ganz kurz, bevor ich an Eugene Philhower von USSEC weiterleite, auch alle Zuschauer aus den Vereinigten Staaten. Hello and welcome to the United States. Good morning, because you're a few hours back to us. So, hello Eugene Philhower, I'm very happy having you here, and I give my word over to you.
Thank you and good morning. Guten Nachmittag, everyone, and hello from Washington, D.C. Mein Deutsch ist nicht so gut, and entschuldigen Sie, and so I will be speaking in English. I want to thank you all for joining us at the Oil and Feed Millers Best 2020 program, and I want to thank AgroContact, the team at AgroContact, and my friend Anna for all their efforts in making this event happen, and to our other partners, the Protein Mark, the DVT, AMI, OVID, and AMI. Next slide, please. Right? Yes, I am. So I work for USSEC. USSEC is a nonprofit producer organization that represents the almost 300,000 soybean producers in the United States. And my presentation today will go over two recent studies that compared U.S. soy to the soy from other origins, and with a particular focus on the nutritional content and the sustainability. We are packaging this in a new promotional effort called the Dare to Compare. I'd like to start with a short video, please. You're going to show the video now?
They say that in the next 30 years, we'll have 9 billion hungry people on this planet. What can I do about it? As a U.S. soybean farmer, I'm doing a lot. The world already depends on the soy grown by me and around 276,000 other U.S. soy farmers. So producing our soy sustainably and with minimal impact on the environment, that's something American soy farmers take very seriously. And it's exactly why we've developed the U.S. Soybean Sustainability Assurance Protocol. It's a certified aggregated approach, audited by third parties, that assures sustainable soybean production on a national scale. That's a mouthful, but what it really means is simple. We're promising a quantifiable and results-driven approach to sustainable U.S. soy production. There are 4 key directives we've set our sights on. The first is biodiversity and high carbon stock, which considers wetlands, grasslands, forests, and migratory birds. Production practices, such as conservation tillage, crop rotation, precision farming, and other technologies. Public and labor health and welfare, protecting people's health and safety in compliance with U.S. regulations. And continuous improvement and environmental protection, which includes conservation programs, information sharing, and technology training. So the question is, how do we make sure we're sticking to all these best practices? Well, with more than 95% of soy growing land participating in U.S. Department of Agriculture conservation programs, we already have a robust data collection system in place. On top of that, there are annual internal audits by producers and annual third-party independent audits by thousands of federal conservation officers. And for our buyers' peace of mind, we offer international certification with shipment-specific record-keeping and documentation for all domestic and international soy customers, that the soybeans and soy products they buy have been produced verified sustainably. U.S. soy farmers are partners in trust to protect the land, generation to generation. We're ensuring a sustainable soy supply for our families and for those 9 billion folks we'll likely never meet. Download your copy of the U.S. Soybean Sustainability Assurance Protocol at ussec.org.
All right, Abe, Anna, or the technical person, that was the wrong video that was the second video. But if we could skip the next slide, I'll pick it up and we'll come back to the other video. So Anna, did you hear me? All right, next slide, please. All right, we'll come back to the nutritional aspect of it, but just wanted to continue on the sustainability discussion. I've made presentations to this group in previous years, and we've always discussed the sustainability practices of the U.S. soy farmers. The practices include cover crops, buffer strips, the application of an integrated pest management for pest control, and the related techniques, which we've been using here for a number of years, that reduce our energy use, our input use, and conserve our natural resources. In the video, which is all this is encapsulated in what we call the U.S. Sustainable Soy Assurance Protocol, the USSEC. And like the video compared it to showed you the general summary, but I want to highlight a recent study that came out from a Dutch organization. Next slide, please. Now, the next one. We'll come back to that. All right, right there. This is the study was done by an organization, Blanc Consultants, using recognized methodology and data sources and formulas to develop the carbon footprint of U.S. soy in comparison to soy from other regions. So you can see there in the United States, we're comparable with Argentina on the total carbon footprint for the soy production. And cultivation, as you can see, is the biggest source. And that's where they estimate the nitrogen and the fertilizer and all the energy used to grow the soybeans. Then transportation, local transportation, and international and processing. So the next slide, please. What this study did, they incorporated land use changes into Brazil and Argentina. They went back for the last 20 years, and they show what the carbon footprint, and you could see there, it's a really remarkable increase. When the land conversion is taken into account in the United States, where there isn't much, but also in Argentina and Brazil, you can see it blows the carbon footprint out of the water, is what we would say. And you can see it adds to the total carbon footprint for the other producing countries. So what does this mean? And we have an example I'd like to show you. So next slide, please. And what the study did was to replace for a Dutch poultry producer, and we estimate about Dutch soybean imports, about 25% come to the United States. So could be some U.S. soy in there. But the study looked at if you replaced the average soy used in the Netherlands with 100% U.S. soy and re-estimate the carbon footprint, you could see what happens. using just U.S. soy reduces the carbon footprint by almost 50%. It's really a remarkable number. And we know that the others, like the European Commission, is looking at trying to have a carbon footprint labeling. And we are very confident that the U.S. soy is the best in meeting that requirement. I recently read that a Danish retailer co-op is allowing at the cashier customer could ask, and they will calculate the carbon footprint for the basket of goods that was purchased. And the idea is to reduce beef consumption. So they could calculate it with you take out the beef, what it would be, and you be poultry and pork. But from our perspective, if you try to identify just the U.S. source of soybeans, you could significantly reduce the carbon footprint of the total final product, in this case, a poultry product in the Netherlands. All this is using internationally recognized data sources, that methodology and things. And I think this is really something we're quite proud of, because as I showed you earlier, the carbon footprint in the production of the United States is really the lowest. But in particularly when you add in the land conversion for in Brazil and Argentina. All right. So if we could go, now I want to switch gears to go back. And so if we could show the second video, that would be great. Thank you.
From this vantage point, you might think that a soybean is, well, just a soybean. But studies show that simply isn't true. Let's take a closer look. Soybeans are used in its different forms for a lot of different things, from food for both animals and people to fuel for our growing world. But as we'll see in this video series, not all soybeans are created equal. Soy grown and produced in the United States consistently outperforms soy grown in any other part of the world in the areas of higher nutrient levels and digestibility, increased metabolizable energy, and lower fiber content. In addition, it has an economic advantage over Argentine and Brazilian soybean meal. To understand why, let's get into the science. Soybean meal is used as animal feed all around the world because of its protein and nutrient density. But experts have found that where the soybean meal comes from impacts the quality of that protein. A meta-analysis of 18 different studies with more than 1,900 samples, one of the most comprehensive reviews of soybean meal to date, was recently conducted by the University of Madrid to quantify the relationship between the country of origin of the bean and the chemical composition, protein quality, and nutritive value of the soybean meal. Soybeans from Argentina, Brazil, India, and the United States were analyzed, and the results were then processed by a software tool created by Genesis Feed Technologies called the Nutrient Value Calculator. This calculator is an important step in this study because it uses formulas representative of the regional feed manufacturers, taking into account the nutrient values of the protein, as well as all the other components needed for the animal's diet, creating a means for equal comparison of the materials. One of the main points uncovered in the study is that the crude protein level of the soybean meal is not enough to form a proper comparison. Buyers and nutritionists should consider the amino acids and other energy profiles to understand the true nutritional and economic value for their soybean meal and animal feed. So, what does this all mean for the global soybean market? The meta-analysis offers indisputable clarity around soybean meal quality from different countries of origin. And the Nutrient Value Calculator offers science-backed proof that U.S. soy offers both a quality and price advantage, ranking first on a number of important nutritional attributes when compared to other origins. When you take a closer look and you dare to compare the soybean composition using scientific information and peer-reviewed studies, you can see that U.S. soy is the highest quality and best economic choice, offering excellent value every time. To learn more about the meta-analysis, the Nutrient Value Calculator, or to connect directly with industry nutritionists, reach out to your U.S. soy representative today.
Okay, as just to highlight what was in that video, the University of Madrid has completed a meta-analysis of lots of research and lots of sampling. And what they have turned, all soy is not the same. And, we know at this time that livestock producers really have to make the most efficient use of the inputs to get the weight gain, the market weight that they need for their products. And out there, and for soy buyers, it's always been protein. The protein level is critical, but and it's generally accepted that the closer you are to the equator, the higher the protein level. That's pretty much a fact. But we would argue that also closer to the equator, the humidity and the heat are much higher too, and they start the deterioration of the quality of the soybean. So our argument is that with this the nutritional value calculator, you could really estimate exactly what you need for the animal, the location, the age of the animal itself. You could target to find the right protein, and we really think this is showing the advantages of the U.S. soy. You can't make great soybean meal from good soybean. It has to be great to start with, and that's what we think. The quality is not all the same, and from the U.S. production, transportation, the handling, and the shipping, we think the quality of the U.S. soy is outstanding. As I mentioned in the video, there's lots of details, lots of analysis and data behind these conclusions, and I would welcome you to join me to, if you're interested in having a consultant come and work with you on the nutritional value calculator, we could do that. We're interested in bringing this information out to more livestock feed companies and livestock producers so they know that the quality of all soybeans are not created equal. And my final point is back on our sustainability argument. The SSAP is now the certificate that is available to the U.S. exporter. It's free. They request it. And what we're trying to do is to get it, it comes to the crusher in Europe, but we are setting up the system that the certificate itself is transferable down the soy value chain. So after the crusher, it goes to the feed mill. But if the feed producer is asked by a retailer or a livestock producer for a certificate that shows the sustainable production of the soybean, we have that. We will have that shortly in 2021 and be able to pass the certificate will be transferable down the value chain. So I would stop right there, and I would hope there's some questions. Maybe some questions came in over the chat, but Anna, what questions do you have?
Yes, so question came over the chat. So the first question is, how does the GMO-free cultivation develop? So in German, wie entwickelt sich denn der GVO-freie Anbau?
Okay, in the United States, it's a very good question, and we can't avoid it. It's been consistent for the past, I would say, 10 to 15 years. The production of non-GM soy is about 7 or 8%. And there's demand here in the United States too. And we've looked at the demand. We know in Europe, or Germany in particular, there is a demand. Right now it's in dairy, which don't eat a lot of soybeans. But if there is demand in Europe for non-GM soy, we could do it. We have the production here, and but it's pretty stable. It's most other places in the world, the GM is not such a concern. Certainly not here in the U.S. And our feeling is, if the market wants it, we will be able to provide it.
Okay, thank you. So everyone is interested in the new president. So what are your expectations regarding the international soy market with a new president? Kurz auf Deutsch, mit der neuen Präsidentschaft, welche Erwartungen haben Sie hier an die in Bezug auf den internationalen Sojamarkt?
It's a great question, and we really don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think one of the differences that we can anticipate is the Biden administration has already committed to rejoining the Paris Accord, and that climate change is a high priority. I think with John Kerry, a former Secretary of State, being nominated to be the climate ambassador, it shows the seriousness and the significance that the incoming administration places on the environment. And so in agriculture policy, the only thing that we've heard from the incoming team is that there will be more of a green focus and greater awareness in trying to get the farmers to be paid, hopefully, for their carbon sequestering that they're doing. And so I think this debate has been going on in Europe for a couple decades now about the greening of the common agricultural policy. But I think we will see that even more here. Already, as the video showed, we do have 30-something years of conservation programs and having an effort to reduce the environmental impact of soy production for years. But I think that's going to accelerate even more so in the future.
Okay, uns hat gerade noch eine Frage erreicht, ob denn qualitative Vergleiche vorliegen für die EU-Herkünfte. So, Eugene, do you have qualitative comparisons with EU sources?
Yes. In fact, we do have, when we looked at the carbon footprint, soy production, it did have a number of European countries, Germany, Austria, for the Danube soy. Italy is the biggest soy producer in Europe, but it's grown elsewhere. But we couldn't fit them all in that slide. But the data that we have does show the carbon footprint of soy production in almost all the producing countries, including India, Ukraine, Germany, Austria, and Italy. But they're not included. So if people are interested in finding more information, please contact me.
Yes, of course. So I also want to know what's with the prices of soybean in the next few months. Where do you see, wo gehen die Preise hin?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I only knew, if I could do it myself. But since, I work for the soybean farmers, the soybean producers, so they like the higher prices. I know as customers in Europe, you're much more concerned about it. But our farmers are very happy. Normally at this time of year, when the U.S. harvest takes place, prices are lower. And at this time, it's an unusual circumstance where the prices are higher, why our harvest is pretty much completed, but there's a huge U.S. crop out there. So like I said, my producers are happy with the higher prices. I think there's, we would say, breaks. We could, sometime into 2021, February, March, the Brazilian production will start, their harvest will start, and those beans will come into the market. In the meantime, I think the prices will stay where they are. I understand in Europe or in Germany, there's a sufficient rape seed meal to get you by for another month or two until the South American stuff comes online. But like I said, we're happy with the higher prices. We've been waiting. Our producers have been waiting a number of years for this to happen.
That sounds good. So we just received another question in the chat. Biodiversity is an important issue regarding to turning pasture to fields. Is that an issue in the US as well? Vielleicht noch kurz auf Deutsch, Eugene. Biodiversität ist ja ein wichtiges Thema, auch im Hinblick auf Entwaldung und Grünlandumbruch, ob da auch in den Staaten Flächen betroffen sind.
Yeah, it's a great question. And of course, it means, no, I think in general, the American soybean farmers are well aware of the importance of biodiversity when it comes to having, favorable pests around to control unfavorable insects. And most producers now have buffer strips that if there's a stream of water They cannot grow a crop on 10 to 30 feet on either side. And that helps in the nutrient runoff that they are passed through the plants, and the plants could catch any nitrogen or potassium. But they also grow, weeds and plants that are picked up by butterflies and favorable insects and things like that. So most farmers, U.S. producers, when they participate in the USDA programs, they have to have a conservation program. And the conservation program is worked out with the local extension agent that in biodiversity is amongst the top. I would think soil and maintaining and improving the soil is probably the highest priority. But the biodiversity is right up there as an important consideration. And I think people are recognizing it more and more, the importance of protecting the wetlands for the biodiversity's sake. And, I can't say enough that how strongly the producers are committed to that objective of protecting the biodiversity of any of the land.
Ja, wir möchten natürlich auch wissen, wie beweisen denn die Staaten, dass sie frei von Entwaldung sind. So, Gene, you just talked about the conservation program. How do you prove that it is deforestation free?
We're working on that. Do you know? We're at that a lot because I think that's what. If we're looking into the future, we know about the Amsterdam Declaration and the commitment of certain countries in Europe to have a deforestation, land conversion free soy. And we think we're there. We know we're low risk, but you don't have to take my word for it. You will have to have the proof. And we're working on it. And we have anecdotal information now. And, there is not a lot of land converted from, say, native vegetation into soybeans. And I have to say that conversion happened a long time ago. And there might be some, but the thing is, we know this is a really important issue in Europe, and they're not going to take my word for it. So we have to prove it. And we are working on that using the data that we have from the USDA, satellite imagery. There's a lot of change, but I could really guarantee that we're not converting native prairie grass to soybeans. And most of the conversion in the United States is probably from what we've had is called the Conservation Reserve Program. So starting in 1985, farmers took marginal land that wasn't high productivity land, and have taken it out of production for 10 to 20-year contracts. So land could be let go for 20 years and then brought back into production, and that looks like it was new conversion, but in reality, it had been farmland 30 years ago. So it's a very difficult to try to quantify it, but because we don't really have that problem in deforestation, we think that's in South America, but we got to prove it, and we're working on that.
Okay, great. So thank you to our audience for the great question, and also thank you to Eugene Philhower for this fresh and informative presentation here. So thank you very, very much. We are happy to have you here, and stay healthy,
all right.
Eugene, and all the people.
Okay, just if anybody needs more information on the analysis or the nutritional value calculator or the SSAP, please contact me. You could get the information through you or through any of the other partners. Ovid and DVT know how to find me. Right.
Okay, please contact him. So
right.
goodbye, Gene. Thank you very much.
Please help me out. All right, thank you, Anna.
You're welcome, Gene. Ja. Vorletzten Runde am heutigen Tage. Gleich erwartet uns noch ein spannender Beitrag zu entwaldungsfreien Lieferketten. Ich freue mich sehr, Sie gleich wiederzusehen, beziehungsweise Sie werden uns wiedersehen, und bis später.